racial conspiracy theory about, in particular, the medication I was on that caused all these problems I talked about in previous videos, Abilify, which was made by a Japanese pharmaceutical company called Otsuka. And so my theory on it, and I may prove to be completely wrong, we'll ask AI after this, but I gotta put it forward because it speaks to differences in culture, and a lot of it also has to do with, this is a digression, but how differences in net worth and buying power are looked at culture to culture, and whether it's dishonorable to try to peer into those murky depths in America, despite certain moves in different directions versus California. I keep talking about how they've moved over the past 10 years in counties where they did have, compliance with the Obama open data policies to take off the ownership records from free, sources that make it very easy to aggregate it, and with a JSON query or a REST API, from GIS, so who's the owner of this property, or if we want to search by name, go through all of it and say, here's how many houses they own in Los Angeles County or San Diego County or what have you, or San Bernardino County. So let's get that off of there, get that off of there, get that off of there, so people have to pay $200 a month or more to an aggregator service that, has their connections with all of these counties, not only in California, but all across the country. So there's places you can go to get this information, but it costs money. So, he's missing the point. Well, I reverse engineered what might potentially be their sell to create a cultural phenomenon for lawmakers to move in this direction, and government bureaucrats to move in this direction. I'm just saying this is what I'm fighting against. But why didn't you just skip right to Occam's raised right, skip right to the top of the food chain here and say these companies made up that cultural phenomenon and created a boogeyman that I'm now fighting against when they create the boogeyman. Okay, fine. But they all look at it differently in different places. But money still has its power. It's just you can't touch that girl. And so it may have yeah. So the racial conspiracy theory, of course, has to do with that these medications are to preserve racial integrity. But in order to arrive at the conclusion that we have to slow a certain percentage of the population down in order to procreate with the right race, skin color, IQ level, social class, whatever it is, or to prevent them from procreating entirely, they obviously had to reverse engineer the way that the world works. And I think there's a lot that they actually got wrong, and what they got right, you put it together, it just created a bunch of people that were disintegrated puzzle pieces that in many cases shouldn't have been. In either way, their lives turned out to be complete hell because they were slowed down at a period in their life. Other things not only were their penises made the size of a pencil eraser, but that becomes a microcosmic symbol of everything about their life. That if you expand, you're born, there's this point in the middle, and then time goes on, and it's a circle, and it's got a radius, and that's just time. And then we all have, as Pfeiffer Fighting says, 100 years to live. But in that time, people end up filling that circle with a higher density of volume, so they pack more things into that. So people that were on these medications ended up having a lot less volume in that circle. And if we just take time out of the equation, let's try to map out what we're packing into that, because you can, like with a gas canister with oxygen or nitrogen and what people use for welding, yeah, you can take a lot more than what would otherwise be, and put it in a smaller space. So AmeriGas, Matthew Rasua supports AmeriGas instead of Gazprom or whatever gas. Go get some propane. Have a great time grilling this summer. But it, yeah, there you go.